Hey guys, welcome back to Lib Talk. Today I'm going to be talking about Season 2 of The Mandalorian. So, Star Wars has been nothing but disappointments for the past few years, pretty much. I must admit, I had enjoyed The Force Awakens when it came out, but after rewatching it a number of times, I noticed that this was more because of, I guess, the hype that there was when it came out, rather than it actually being a good movie. The less I say about The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, the better. And I left the cinema in both cases feeling absolutely devastated at the state Star Wars had ended up in. I was almost questioning whether I actually still loved Star Wars or not, or whether I had just grown out of it all, basically. But enter The Mandalorian. Now, The Mandalorian, I'm going to be honest, at the start, before we even got to watch season 1, I was expecting all the wrong things for it. And I was expecting it to focus on the Boba Fett, right? On the, hey, look, it's R2-D2. Hey, look, it's an X-Wing. Wow. And thankfully, this series sort of stands out on its own merits, on its own qualities, but still has that sort of Star Wars costume, which we all love and want to see, right? And it manages to expand the Star Wars universe very well in interesting and varied locations and ways, and also provides us with new characters to fall in love with who actually get interesting development, right? Something we didn't get at all in the last 3 Star Wars movies. Anyways, season 1 was a blast. I really enjoyed seeing Mando traveling around with Baby Yoda, going to different interesting and diverse locations, meeting new interesting characters. Overall, I gave the first season of Mandalorian a 3.5 out of 5. Basically, just because how fun it was. There were some sort of problems with that series. Some of the writing was a little off. Some of the dialogue, again, didn't work for me. It was a little too corny. And some of the action was a little janky at times. But overall, it was a fun series. I really enjoyed watching it. And a 3.5, I think it definitely did deserve. Season 2, on the other hand. So let's start talking about Season 2 now. It's a grander story, right? It has more epic moments, and it doesn't lose those, really strong character moments from Season 1. It just makes them bigger and better. Spoilers ahead, by the way, guys. So now I'm going to be focusing on the storyline and the plot and the writing of the series. So obviously I have to spoil from now on. So if you haven't watched Season 2 of The Mandalorian, please stop watching now. I can only tell you that it's well worth watching and highly recommended. Go and watch it. If you've watched The Mandalorian, please do continue watching my review. So let's start off by focusing on how the story progresses from season 1. Basically, Mando is still attempting to find fellow Mandalorians who would then assist him in finding Baby Yoda's kin. Each episode, just like in season 1, sort of continues the overarching main story with a number of side stories, which remind me sort of how video games work. You've got the main story, the overarching story, and then you've got the sort of side quests, which are actually sometimes more enjoyable than the main story. And it is sometimes the case here, although the main story is a fascinating one. So many of these side stories are, however, excellently written. Bill Burr's comes to mind, for example, or even the Boba Fett one comes to mind as well here, which I really enjoyed. Anyways, so we start season 2 with Mando back with his sidekick Baby Yoda, and basically he's attempting to find a new Mandalorian. He's heard of a Mandalorian being near him. Basically, this leads him to meeting with the sheriff of the town, and together with the sheriff, he helps the sheriff and the villagers, the townsfolk of that town, fight together with the Tusken Raiders against this massive dragon. And this is an excellent start to the series. The first episode of Mandalorian season 2 is a brilliant start. 10 out of 10 for that episode. Really well done. Great job there. I have to praise Timothy Oliphant, who gives us a great performance as the sheriff there, who is using Boba Fett's armor, of course, which then eventually goes to Mando himself. The effects are very good in this episode. Very good effects on the dragon. So I enjoyed that episode very much. And the action, I was going to forget about the action. The cinematography and the action which took place in that episode, top notch, very high production value seen in that episode. Anyways, the next few episodes are pretty much side quests which have little to no bearing on the actual story, until finally Mando meets Ahsoka Tano. Now, I know there was a lot of hype about this episode. I personally did not love it. I thought Ahsoka Tano was a little extra here. We didn't need her. But, you know, she pushes the story a little bit further. So at least there's that, right? And this leads Mando and Baby Yoda to the Jedi Temple, and what is, in my opinion, one of the best episodes I have seen this year. Episode 14, The Tragedy. Truly captivating, guys. This episode was brilliant. I really loved it. So the episode effectively sort of combines fan service together with the sort of truly excellent direction by Robert Rodriguez, and the writing in this episode was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Yes, Boba Fett was shoehorned into the story. I will admit that. But come on, it was so epic. His entry, his action sequences, fighting against the stormtroopers, brilliant stuff. And then once he gets his armor, he truly shows off his power. So although I wasn't looking forward to seeing Boba Fett in this series, I actually did really enjoy what he got to do in this episode and in future episodes, of course. Anyways, the episode, The Tragedy, obviously ends in tragedy with Baby Yoda being captured by the Dark Troopers. And, the whole episode works out so well, so deliciously written. And Robert Rodriguez does a fantastic job at directing it all and making it one seamless episode in almost around 30 minutes. Fantastic. Really, really well done. Anyways, so Boba Fett, together with his sidekick, Fennec Sand, they give us some brilliant action sequences in that episode. The problem obviously with this kind of episode is the incompetent stormtroopers, right? They are incompetent and you never feel like they are a threat. They can only be sort of like a threat if there are very, very big numbers, large amounts of stormtroopers. Unfortunately, they are seemingly completely incapable of hitting even a barn door with their guns. So they never feel like a threat, right, to our heroes. Anyways, this leads us to Mando attempting to save Baby Yoda. First, he must meet with the fantastic Bill Burr, who gives us an excellent performance in episode 7. Was both hilarious but also incredibly emotional as well. He gets some fantastic character development in episode 7. So Bill Burr's character was very interesting, very well written, not shoehorned in at all, mind you. So that was very well done. I really enjoyed that episode. Until finally Mando with all his companions, minus Bill Burr. I wish Bill Burr got the opportunity to be in the finale as well. Basically, Mando and all his buddies go on this sort of desperate rescue mission to save Baby Yoda from Moff Gideon. Listen, this is all fan service. Of course it is. Do I care? Not one bit. I loved every moment of the finale. Yes, spoilers. Luke appears and saves them at the end. But the whole sequence before that was so good, so great. Seeing the different combat styles from the different characters was really enjoyable. So fantastic job in the action, in the writing of this episode. And Luke's entry with his X-Wing and then, cloaked, so we cannot see him, but we see the lightsaber. Then you see the glove on his hand, and right, this is Luke who has come to save them and sort of take Baby Yoda with him to give him training. The direction, truly spot on. Their plan to get onto Moff Gideon's ship was actually very well written and very clever. I was surprised they actually thought of a very clever way of getting in, right? So props to the writers for that. From there on, as I said, it's a spectacle, right? As our heroes take on whole platoons of stormtroopers, the incompetent stormtroopers. Moff Gideon actually does a fine job, right? Giancarlo Esposito actually does a fine job fighting against Mando, and it's actually quite believable. He did all the fighting there with his blade, right? So that was actually really well done. Anyways, Luke's timely arrival saves our heroes from the Dark Troopers who had returned back to the ship, and he completely obliterates them. And this is one of the best Star Wars moments I've seen in the very past few years. So I really enjoyed that scene with Luke sort of taking out the Dark Troopers, and the music was very good there as well. We'll talk about the music later on. So the story ends with Luke taking Baby Yoda to train with him, and basically it feels like Mando's storyline has ended here, right? Because now the focus seems to have turned now on Boba Fett, who gets the final conclusion, the final scene of this episode. Where does this leave us? Well, Mando's storyline is done, right? In my opinion, I think that's the end for him. Maybe we get to see him in a few scenes here and there for some cameos, but overall, I think his story is done and dusted. He has sort of gotten Baby Yoda to his objective, and that's it, right, for him. The next season will be releasing in December 2021, and I think they will focus on Boba Fett. And it's interesting times to be a Star Wars fan right now, definitely. As you can tell, I really did enjoy the storytelling in this season. Serious props must be given to Jon Favreau here, guys, and Dave Filoni, who have written an excellent stories from start to finish. Yes, it does have some slow moments, some episodes which don't really push the story forward, and that does annoy me a little at times. But, overall, this is some of the best Star Wars writing we have had in a very, very, very long time. The dialogue, sometimes corny, yes, just like in season 1. Sometimes a little off. Sometimes things happen and it's like, oh, of course that happened. Sometimes the stormtroopers can kill someone and they're like, freeze, drop your weapons, and then obviously they're killed. So you get a bit of that, right? Many of the heroes have plot armor, and that sometimes annoys me as well. But when you look at the bigger picture of things, it's a very enjoyable, very well written series, and one that if you try to sort of switch off your brains a little, you will enjoy, believe me. The thing about Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni is that, they understand the formula. They know what makes Star Wars great, and they have created a Westerner here, right? It's clearly a Westerner with a Star Wars costume on it and with a lot of Akira Kurosawa vibes included into it. Fantastic job by both writers, really well done. It's hard to talk about performances in this series. I mean, our main protagonist has a helmet on for pretty much the whole series, right? Apart from some scene here and there. And the other one is a puppet. So it's not like we can really comment about their performances that much. The side characters, however, do a decent job. I enjoyed Giancarlo Esposito's performance. He felt like a believable Star Wars villain. Moff Gideon was a quite intimidating villain, although he was quite easily defeated at the end of the day. The fight sequence, as I mentioned before, in the finale was actually very believable and very well done. Gina Carano as Cara Dune, I really liked. She has a nice personality, and her presence can be felt, right? Her action sequences obviously feel very real again, and she does most, if not all, of her stunts and does them very, very well. I'd also like to quick mention for Bill Burr and Timothy Olyphant. I already mentioned them before, but they do have great cameos, very, very great performances by them in the small time that they get. Now, the series sort of focuses a lot on practical effects, and in my opinion, this is another positive. Favreau attempts and succeeds in sort of recapturing the charm of old school shooting techniques used by George Lucas for the original trilogy. The influence is clearly there. Now, I am a big lover of practical effects, which is also why I am such a big fan of Christopher Nolan. And the main reason is that I want my movies to feel real, to feel, like things are actually coming in contact with each other and there actually is a location behind them, not just a green screen. You can tell when a movie or a series makes use of practical effects. Not only does it feel like the actors are interacting with things, but it also helps those same actors, right? I don't want to be an actor with a green screen behind me and I'm being forced to sort of imagine everything that's going around me. I'd rather be there on location and actually, not have to imagine, but I'm actually there, right? And you're in contact with the ground, with everything that's going around with you. Much easier to act, I'm sure of that. Just think of how the prequel trilogy ended up, right? With most of the actors very bland, very wooden performances. I'm sure can be somehow blamed on that as well. Mandalorian, however, doesn't only use practical effects, of course, it does make use also of a lot of CGI. Now, I'm not going to say that this is all good because I would be lying. This is, after all, a TV series and it has its budget limitations, of course, despite being Star Wars. Some cuts clearly have to be made, and for certain sequences that is clear to see. It is, however, overall pretty good in my opinion, and there are some quite some thrilling ship versus ship sequences, and some very terrifying monsters appear here and there. There's the spider, the dragon from episode 1, which looked very, very good. Now, obviously, if I'm going to talk about CGI, I have to talk about the de-aging done for Mark Hamill in the final episode. I found it very distracting. I did not enjoy it as well. Something about his lips was off, and his face, the way his face looked, just didn't look good at all. Felt very fake. I would have rather they have casted a younger actor instead of Mark Hamill, but they went for that direction, so fair play to them, that's their decision. But regardless, apart from this little blip, I must say that the showrunners did a pretty good job in this regard, considering that this is a TV series and not a movie. The music in this series is excellent. Ludwig Göransson is fast becoming one of my favorite composers, soundtrack composers. I'm really enjoying the work he is coming up with. The main theme is truly a banger, and throughout the series we feel we have this constant Western vibe, which I really enjoy, and that is also felt in the soundtrack. So the soundtrack here by Ludwig Göransson is a great companion to the action taking place on the screen. In conclusion, The Mandalorian Season 2 is a satisfying conclusion to the storyline started in Season 1, and although it has a lot of fan service, it is fan service done right, in my opinion. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, they have given the fans what they want, and sometimes that's not a wrong thing. I know some of you might disagree with that. It's a great story with a very, very good conclusion and end, an emotional ending, and also a almost heartbreaking conclusion to it that doesn't attempt to disappoint you, but gives you everything that you wanted and more. It will not make you feel like you wasted your time here, but rather it's a very satisfying, very emotional end, which will resonate with Star Wars fans. With excellent production value, a rip-roaring soundtrack, some epic set pieces throughout, and the lovable baby Yoda beside the heroic Din Djarin. The Mandalorian, in my opinion, is a definite 4 out of 5. Well deserved, highly recommended for everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed my review. If you did, don't forget to leave a like on this video, and don't forget to check out my other movie and TV series as well as video game reviews on this channel. Click on the link that is appearing right now. Cheers, and I'll see you guys next time right here on Adlib Talk.